Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Executive. My name is Councillor Paul Follows, Leader of the Council and Chair of the meeting of the Executive. Meeting is being held in the Council Chamber at the Buries in Godalming and is being webcast live. I need to also advise that the agenda was published on Monday, the 27th of October 2025, and a supplementary pack was published on November the 4th today. Item 1, apologies for absence. Chris.
We have a full house this evening, Leader. No apologies.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Item 2, the minutes. Can I have your agreement, everyone, to sign the minutes of the 14th of October 2025? Thank you. Declarations of interest, any received before the meeting, Chris?
None received in advance of the meeting.
And any declarations from the floor? Seeing none, then item 4, questions from members of the public. Have there been any, Chris?
No, we've had no questions from the public.
Great. And then item 5, questions from members. So there have been no questions from members, but we did have some deferred questions from members as a result of the council session on the 22nd of October, which was obviously enabled by a motion from Councillor Peter Clark. So if I can pass over to Councillor Townsend to provide the responses to those deferred questions.
Thank you, Leader. The answers to the questions have been circulated. So there aren't any of the members here this evening that asked the questions. So there will be, I don't think, any supplementary questions at all.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Townsend. I move then on to item 6, Leader and Portfolio Holders updates. I will go last because I will try not to wax lyrical about LGR and other matters, but I will for the moment go round, starting with Tony.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Victoria?
Nothing tonight, thank you, Leader.
Gemma?
Nothing tonight, thank you, Leader.
It's going to be a quick one. Surely, Steve, break the trend.
Yeah, sorry to break the pattern. It's fairly brief, however. I'm very pleased to report that the keys of the depot were handed over to Waverley officers last Friday afternoon as the formal start to Waverley for the first time operating its own in-house grounds maintenance service. And I'd very much like to take this opportunity to thank the officers involved for the enormous amount of work that was put in accomplishing this significant task in what was a very limited time period. And I believe that the bringing in-house of our grounds maintenance contract will both serve us well in the future, both as Waverley Borough Council and forward and onward in terms of the new authority. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome the Green Spaces operatives who've now moved over to becoming Waverley employees. Waverley is a council that takes genuine pride in the services it provides to residents and the way it treats its people. And with LGR now firmly in the frame, we want those values to carry forward to the new authority. And so I think we had last Friday for starting on the 1st of November, really good news in terms of the bringing in-house of our grounds maintenance service. And I am sure it will serve the residents of Waverley proud going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Just would echo that, and thanks to the team that have enabled that to be done in, I would say, one of the shortest periods of time that could possibly have been expected them to do it. They've done a fantastic job, led by Julian's team. Liz.
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of things. First of all, I just think I need to clarify a point that is being sort of spread on social media about this council not giving seal relief on affordable housing, which is completely incorrect. We do operate seal relief on affordable housing, on developments, and that is as part of our charging schedule, and anybody can look at the SIL charging schedule online. So I would just reiterate that that is something we actually do. With regard to just another matter, councillors will be aware that the issues and options on the local plan has been launched, and this is now open until Monday, the 8th of December. It was informed by the workshops that we carried out previously. Some of you, I know, attended those workshops. And, you know, I don't need to remind you that we're facing a really challenging time with regard to the local plan. Our housing targets are unprecedented, and in a borough that's got about 80% of its land protected, whether that's Greenbelt or national landscape, it's not going to be an easy task. However, we are committed to involving our residents as much as possible. This issues and options stage isn't statutory, but we have decided as a council to ensure that we include residents at this very early stage of the local plan so that they can be involved in various areas of the location of development, design, economy, transport, etc., the environment. So I would urge members here to try and encourage people in their communities to respond to the issues and options consultation, and it will inform the next stage of the local plan. And no decision has been made at this stage about anything. So it is at the very early stage, and then it will go on to, at some stage, to then the preferred options, which will be presented then to as well at consultation. So please get as many people to respond as possible. I know that some people are feeling, you know, oh, you know, what's the point and all that, which I can appreciate. But the point is, we need to hear residents' voices. We need them to say, to answer the questions. There's quite a lot of questions. You don't have to answer every single one, but answer as many as possible. We need to hear from people so that we have that robust evidence base when we go to inspection, that we can show that residents have put their voices forward. So I would urge councillors to encourage that. Thank you.
And also, just to add, we know full well that the unitary will not get to a unitary local plan for some time. So this document will exist and protect the territory that is currently called Waverley for longer than the life of Waverley will exist. So it is important that we do it.
Absolutely, Leader. And just to reiterate, the government has made it clear that they are insisting that we carry on with our local plans despite local government reorganisation. So it is important that we go ahead. This is the only mechanism we have to try and create planned development in the area of Waverley. So it is really important that we try and plan it in line with what people want as much as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Kiko, anything from you?
No, nothing from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Kiko. Janet?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Mark?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, at the risk of repeating some of the response to Councillor Austin's question, this executive also believes it's vital that residents see tangible benefits from developer contributions and that infrastructure investment reaches local communities. So I'm pleased to formally report that the 2025-26 annual strategic SIL bidding round opened for bids the week before last and will close on the 22nd of December this year. Strategic SIL comprises between 70 to 80% of the total SIL collected by Waverley from developers, and it's that portion that we allocate to strategic infrastructure projects here at Waverley. In order to allocate these funds, we'll be following the bidding process originally designed in 2018, whereby eligible infrastructure providers in Waverley looking to deliver infrastructure in the borough submit their bids for SIL funding. These bids will be assessed against the strategic SIL allocation criteria during January and February next year, and decisions will be made by the executive or council in March and April. I know that many providers have already been working in great detail with our strategic SIL team, but full details and guidance is available on our website online, and providers interested in preparing a strategic infrastructure proposal are still strongly encouraged to contact the SIL team in advance of submitting a bid. As I previously reported, the executive agreed after the last round that the number and value of eligible bids being received has been, I believe, below what I think our predecessors expected when they adopted SIL around 7 years ago. And so I'm also pleased to report that the executive has established a cross-party working group to see what else can possibly be done to encourage and stimulate more and better bids, bearing in mind not only our own infrastructure development plan, but also more immediately that Waverley cannot force the county or any other third-party provider to bid for strategic SIL funding. Any proposals from that review will be brought forward in time for next year's strategic SIL bidding round. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mark. Paul?
Nothing to add at this time, Leader. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Then the last one from me is just on LGR. Obviously, we found out the decision from the government last week, and the government summoned all leaders to a meeting with the minister at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Like most of the leaders of the districts and boroughs, particularly those who supported 3 unitaries, we were very disappointed to be told that not only had the 2 unitary bid been accepted, but every single aspect, I think, of what the county and others had requested was granted along with it. There are obviously some steps to come, but I'm very pleased to say that in my Surrey County Council hat, we have been able to ensure that the Surrey County Council portion of those on the Joint Committee will be proportionately allocated, reflecting the no overall control situation that exists at County Hall. So the Joint Committees, which the Western leaders in particular, but I gather also in the East, would want to see informally brought into effect as soon as possible. Officers at all, well, certainly in this case, the monitoring officers are working on bringing that forward as soon as possible, at which point there will likely be a council meeting to confirm Waverley's participation in the informal arrangements, and that the county nominations have been sought from the various political groups to fill the allocations to the other half of the Joint Committee. It is my hope, noting the proportionality of that full Joint Committee, that the districts and boroughs will not be ignored through the process, and can ensure that the unitary implementation team is set up in such a way that leads to the best possible outcomes for residents whose views were entirely and completely ignored by both the County Council and the government through this process. The government published the consultation results for anybody who hasn't seen them, which very clearly showed that residents, as well as almost every other elected body in the county, with the exception of 2 boroughs and the county itself, were in favour of 3 unitaries, but nonetheless the government said otherwise. To be clear, the decision was primarily based around financial sustainability. Clearly, the debt and other questions weighed large. A number of us have, however, raised some concerns about the modelling and forecasting that the County Council submitted in their bids. And although I could say a lot about debt, it is also just worth flagging that some of the other issues that prevail are on things like local government funding more generally, where the fair funding review is likely to have a negative effect on money coming into the new unitary, as well as the debt. So there'll be more details on how the new joint committees are going to be established. These, of course, will work up to the unitary elections, which will then replace those joint committees with cabinet, well, with a shadow cabinet and shadow leader, who will then take forward the implementation plan to enact or to modify as they see fit. Lots more on that to come, I am sure, but for now we'll move on to the core of the agenda. Item 7 is recommendations from Review and Scrutiny Committee. Chris, I believe there have been no sessions of ONS since, so no recommendations, is that right?
Correct.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 8, the adoption of the revised SIL enforcement strategy. I believe Councillor Townsend will introduce and I will second Liz.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to thank officers for all of their hard work on this. And also the members of our cross-party SIL review and reform group as well. As Councillor Merriweather highlighted just a moment ago, SIL is one of our key tools for ensuring that development contributes fairly to the cost of local infrastructure. Things like whether it's new schools, extended schools, highways, parks, community facilities, things like that. However, as he has also said, you know, we do rely on those infrastructure providers to submit bids for funding, and also just to confirm that our officers do actively contact all of the infrastructure providers to get them to submit bids and remind them when the window for bidding is open, etc. So they do a lot of work to proactively seek those bids. Anyway, getting back to the enforcement policy, I would like to thank the cross-party SILAM Review and Reform Group for all of their work on the enforcement policy. We went through this in some depth at our meetings, and suggestions were made for revisions of the actual format of the document and also points of clarification. And this was particularly aimed at improving the legibility of the policy for individual householders. And this document has been recommended by that group for adoption. I hope you'll agree the policy has been circulated, part of the pack, and that there is now a clearer division between the discretionary enforcement powers that we have under the regulations and those that are mandatory. And the policy clearly highlights the sections where the council is able to use discretion, and you'll see that there's some highlighted boxes which confirm that the council will only use this discretionary enforcement measure if it is assessed to be expedient and proportionate to do so. So that makes it very clear how much the extent of the discretion that we can use and we are using already. One of the things that, whilst the council may decide that it's not expedient to take enforcement action, the liability for the SIL payment and interest on any unpaid sums is mandatory and remains unaffected, as does the local land charge. So we can choose not to enforce, but that doesn't mean that we can remove the charge on the land. And I know that the continuing charge on the property, just slipping into the discretionary review just slightly, this is one of the serious concerns that was being raised to residents, and a point that we have dealt with this under our discretionary review, where under the legislation, if we can identify an error, and remember we've used very broad terms for that error, the council can then be in a position to refund SIL that has been paid, and also, more importantly, remove the charge from the property. And it has been very encouraging to hear this approach particularly being supported by members of the cross-party working group at our last meeting. So getting back to the enforcement policy, this just highlights the amount of discretion that the council is able to use, shows what is mandatory under the regulations that we cannot change. And so I would ask members if they would support the recommendation labelled as option 3, which is the adoption of the revised SIL enforcement policy, which is on page 18 of your pack. And yes, and then adopt it. Thank you.
It's actually been really interesting to listen to that group work and to see in some cases the realization of the reality of this process beyond some of the political statements that have been made. And actually, I think it's been a really constructive and informative group for everybody. Mark.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, it's a very tough in places to be faced with legal constraints that we have absolutely no powers to get out of. But I just want to echo that point. It was a cross-party group. It worked extremely thoroughly, extremely constructively. It benefited from the skills and experience, particularly the financial and legal skills of two of the most qualified members of our opposition group here. And so given all of that, I'm very glad that we could come to a consensus on where we should go. Thank you.
But also just, I mean, I know Liz has said it as well, but just to highlight the amount of work and discretion in all senses of the word that the officers have been applying and the work that they're doing. I think it's been forgotten during some of the politicking from certain quarters, just how much work those officers do to keep this running and apply actually quite a lot of reasonable discretion in the process that they run. This is not a punitive enforcement policy has been put forward by some people. And actually what this revised enforcement strategy does is make it clearer, give the ability for more discretion to be applied up to the limits of the legislation anyway, and to take a pragmatic approach where required, which I think was I think was the original policy did that too. This just does it in a bit clearer way. Okay, any further comments, Steve?
Yeah, I'd just really like to add my thanks to Liz and to Mark particularly, and to the officers who've really worked hard in securing what is, in my view, a measured response to remove anomalies, to improve and streamline the SIL enforcement at a time when, as we've been reminded by Councillor Merriweather, that there is huge value, potential value to the community in SIL to provide that kind of community infrastructure in some measure that is needed when we are experiencing development at the pace that we are experiencing development in Waverley. So again, many thanks and congratulations to all those involved.
Councillor Spence, you certainly asked me if you could speak on this item. Would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. If I just may add, as having been a member of the working group, just to endorse Councillor Merriweather's comments about I think the way that the group worked together along with the officers in trying to come up with a document which I think is much clearer than the previous document. However, I would just say that, and I think picking up on the portfolio holders' comments, particularly about the land charge, the document is obviously done in the limitations that we are allowed to do given the current law. And I know the council has already been pushing the government to review the legislation and to amend it to make it much clearer and fairer. And I would hope that you would continue to do that and pressurise the government to actually amend what are very difficult and in some cases unworkable regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julian. Any further speakers from the executive on the subject before I go back to the recommendations? Okay, in which case, can I have all those in favour of the recommendations set out in agenda item 8? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Item 9, Broadwater Park updated scope of work, which is with Councillor Merriweather to introduce, and I will be listed as seconder. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Leader. So this report provides an update on the Broadwater Park project and seeks approval to modify the scope of work we previously considered so that we can move the project forward within the existing approved budget. You'll remember that we brought this complicated project back in-house for reasons discussed at length at the time. And in April this year, following some extremely thorough and very popular community engagement, the executive agreed to progress a feasibility study, including design work up to REBA Stage 3 and the submission of a planning application, all within a total budget envelope of £250,000. Since then, a competitive procurement process has been carried out, and it's become clear, due to continued adverse market conditions, including inflation and rising consultancy costs, that the approved budget isn't enough, sadly, to cover the full scope that we'd originally intended. The funding we have available will, however, allow us to complete REBA Stages 1 and 2, which are the crucial early design and feasibility stages, and still with funding left to spare, for which details are provided in the exempt annex appendix. So this report recommends that we proceed on that basis, completing those first 2 stages now, and then revisit Stage 3 once we have a clearer understanding of the detailed costs and funding requirements. This approach keeps the project moving forward, allows us to appoint a multidisciplinary consultancy team, and make sure we continue addressing the landfill and redevelopment issues on site. Broadwater Park remains a strategic priority for this council. As the community engagement demonstrated, this project is an important opportunity to enhance biodiversity, improve access to green spaces, and potentially create new leisure and recreational facilities for our residents. If approved, the team will proceed to appoint the preferred bidder, begin the feasibility and design work, and bring forward a separate budget request for the next stage through the Council's normal budget setting processes. In short, this is a pragmatic step. It allows us to maintain momentum on an important project, stay within our agreed financial limits, and make informed decisions about the next phase once we have more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any further speakers on this item? No, I think I'll just say then, before we move to the recommendations, I do want to thank officers for the immense amount of work that's gone into this. I think it's just also just worth reminding anybody watching this that we have the public interest at heart in the actions that we took in bringing this back under Waverley's control in the first place. It's a very, very large site that was underused and was proposed to be underused, and keeping the financial and significant non-financial benefits and value of this site within the public domain for the people of Godalming and for the people of Waverley has always been the purpose of any Waverley interaction here. And almost everything that we have had to do when it comes to things like the monitoring, the Environment Agency works, the planning works, are things that any other provider would have had to have also carried out. The difference is that instead of providing either a small private gain or a financial private gain from in another way on the site, we're trying to provide this exclusively for public good in lots of different ways. And that remains the intention of Waverley Borough Council, and it is my hope to ensure that the unitary will be able to follow through on that plan as well once Waverley ceases to be. Any other comments from any members of the executive on anything in the item? Okay, seeing none then, are the recommendations set out in the report agenda item 9 agreed? Thank you very much, everyone. Item 10, extended producer responsibility, something that I've been looking forward to for a little while because it's slightly novel. Councillor Williams to introduce, and I will again second.
Thank you. The government's National Waste Strategy and Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, reforms will have significant implications for local authorities. Basically, from 2025, EPR will shift the cost of managing packaging waste from taxpayers to producers at long last, providing councils with funding strictly ring-fenced to adapt their waste management infrastructure to align with national consistency requirements. Essentially, councils will need to work closely with producers and government bodies to ensure funding is effectively allocated, improving recycling rates while navigating potential operational and financial challenges during any transition. So accordingly, executive members have today the letter from DEFRA on pages 61 to 64 outlining the scheme. Members will have the technical paper on the basis for this council's EPR allocation on pages 65 to 74. The background EPR paper on pages 49 to 57, and the appendix on pages 59 to 60, which outlines how the 1.665 million of Waverley's allocation will be spent, with the remainder held in reserve for further approval. So we are proposing to spend this money in accordance with nationally prescribed rules for changes in waste collection services, which have been on the stocks now for 10 years, now finally implemented by government legislation. So I'm happy to move the paper that you've got before you at the executive meeting this evening.
Thank you, Steve. EPR it's a in a way a slightly strange concept because we know in advance in a way that the more successful it is, we know that the revenue from it will in fact decrease. And so that it means trying to plan for something serious whilst we also know that success means diminishing returns in a more general sense is quite a strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact that we're now fairly well funded is actually does mean that we are, benefiting from our own success. So as others catch up, our relative funding, sadly, will potentially diminish.
And beyond that, the more that producers switch over to packaging that is more sustainable, the less of a charge that will be coming in anyway. So as well as our proportion of the pot going down, the overall pot will likely change, as I think it has done in Scandinavia, France, and various other places where an equivalent policy has been in place. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, anyone? Yeah, Tony.
I'm going to take the rare position of being positive after the slightly negative comments. I think I'm sure this will be raised at full council as well, but I do, following the comments that Paul and Steve have just made at the end there, I do want to draw everyone's attention to point 6.2, where the fact that we are receiving this sum, and it is a considerable sum of money, over £2 million, is due to the fact that we are a high performing authority in terms of our recycling rates. Basically, we are doing a very good job, a better job than other authorities, and that is why we are receiving such a large sum of money, to which we are then allocating the lion's share of that money to improve our service still further. So whilst, yes, long term, as everyone catches up, our share of the revenue will decline, nevertheless, it's something we should be proud of, and the fact that we're using that money to improve our service still further is, to my way of thinking, at least a double positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Any other comments from anyone? Steve, any final thoughts?
No, that's fine. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. In which case, then, could I have everybody's agreement for the recommendation set out in agenda item 10? Thank you very much, everyone. There we go, Liz. Thank you. Right, item 11, the Affordable Homes Delivery Strategy, which is with Janet Crow to introduce, and I will second. Janet.
Councillor Townsend's going to come in after me, aren't you? Yep. Thank you very much. So, as you know, Waverley Borough Council is committed to one of its most important functions, i.e. homes to buy or rent for households from all income levels. Waverley needs an affordable and healthy home. Everyone in Waverley needs an affordable and healthy home, and we are absolutely determined to achieve this. The draft Affordable Home Strategy before you has been published for public consultation on Commonplace, which is the Council's online consultation platform, between June the 9th and 21st of July this year. Views have also been sought from the ONS Resources and Scrutiny Committees, the LSAB, Landlord Service Advisory Board, Tenants Panel, affordable housing providers and other stakeholders. So tonight you see before you the results of this very thorough consultation, and I ask that we approve this draft strategy called Healthy Homes and recommend its adoption to full council in December. And I just want to express my thanks to Alice and Esther for an extremely thorough and excellent piece of work, and their team. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before I bring in Liz, I just want to say thank you to Alice and Esther and the rest of the team there, because they are people that clearly understand and care about social tenants and social housing. They understand what it's for. I have spoken to many housing officers of various different types throughout the boroughs and districts of Surrey. And when you know that somebody is experienced and care and have those values about social housing, you know it immediately. And our staff here at Waverley very much do have that. And I can't thank them enough for being how they are when it comes to social housing. It's a great credit to us and our residents. Liz.
Thank you, Leader, and I echo Janet and your comments, and thanks to Alice and Esther as well. I mean, this the Affordable Homes Delivery Strategy titled Healthy Homes is the month of careful work, engagement and consultation. We all know how fundamental a decent, secure and affordable home is to people's well-being. Without that foundation, it's very difficult for families to thrive, for children to learn, or for older residents to remain independent. And that's why Waverley remains firmly committed to providing these homes to buy or rent for households across all income levels. This new strategy, Healthy Homes, sets out our priorities and objectives for the next 3 years. And it follows on from our previous strategy, which was Build More, Build Better and Build for Life. And it takes forward this council's ambition with a sharper focus on health, affordability and sustainability. At the heart of this strategy, as I said, is about delivering more genuinely affordable homes, homes that people who are working locally can actually afford to live in. And we will continue to deliver directly through the council's own new build programme and in partnership with housing associations who are responsible for the majority of new affordable homes in the borough. This strategy also ensures that every home we build or support will be sustainable and energy efficient with a fabric first approach to design. And this will not only help us meet our climate change commitments, but also reduce running costs for our residents, keeping their bills lower. We know that affordability remains one of the biggest challenges facing our communities. That's why maintaining our commitment to social rents, the most affordable form of housing, at around 55% of market rents remains a top priority for this council. And this year alone, we expect to deliver around 84 high quality homes at social rent levels built to high sustainability standards. This approach has been guided by consultation, as Councillor Crowe said, between June and July this year, and it has been extensive. And within the document, within the pack, you'll see that comments from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee were raised and responded to, as well as the wider public comments as well. And they're summarised in the consultation statement as well. And the comments we received were thoughtful and often deeply personal. You'll see on page 96 moving accounts of how accessibility in housing matters so profoundly, and why our commitment to ensuring homes are tenure blind is so important to community cohesion as well. And those insights have directly shaped the final version before you today. Importantly, this strategy aligns fully with all of our 5 corporate priorities, supported delivery of outcomes in our corporate strategy delivery plan, and forging stronger links as well with adult social care to ensure housing supports residents' health and independence as well. This strategy includes aspects focusing on well-being, on climate change and equality as well. And it recognises that good housing underpins every aspect of a thriving, inclusive and resilient community. And I would strongly ask the Executive to approve this draft. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Completely agree with all of that. And I think this is also one of those opportunities where the work and values of Waverley Borough Council going out into the new unitary and its much larger social housing offering is something that I'm keen to promote when we get to the joint committee stages. And when we have working groups on housing and those boroughs and districts that maintain social housing are going to be crucial to informing that. It would be very much my hope that Waverley executive members and Waverley officers are in that mix, sharing some of this out to the wider West Surrey. Okay, any final thoughts from anybody else? Janet, any further comments you want to add? Nope. In which case, could I please have are the recommendations set out in the report agenda item 11 agreed? Thank you very much, everyone. Item 12, declaration of the Bealswood Common as a local nature reserve, which is with Councillor Williams to introduce and me to second. Thank you.
Yeah, this is another piece of good news, I think. I'm pleased to bring forward a recommendation to seek the Executive's approval, and I very much hope that we will approve, for us to make a formal declaration, as we are required to do under Section 19 of the National Parks and Access to the Countryside Act 1949, that land in our ownership at Bealswood Common in Dockenfield is managed as a local nature reserve. I'd like to very much thank the officers for this report. In order to designate land as a local nature reserve, the council must both own and have a legal interest in the land and ensure that it's being managed for the purpose of preserving its natural features, wildlife, and opportunities for public enjoyment and education. And Bealswood Common is absolutely fitted for this purpose. So I'm delighted to confirm that Bealswood Common fully meets these requirements. The site is already being actively managed for biodiversity, with a rich mosaic of habitats supporting a range of wildlife, and it offers residents and visitors alike the chance to enjoy nature at close hand. And so making this declaration is a clear statement of our continuing commitment to protect Waverley's natural environment and to promote access to nature for our communities. It celebrates the work of local volunteers and partner organisations who help to care for this wonderful site, and it gives the land an additional layer of recognition and protection for the future. I should also just add incidentally that the process of designating the Lammersland in Godalming as a local nature reserve is also well advanced. The statutory public consultation has now been completed, and we anticipate bringing that formal declaration forward in due course. So this is a positive and practical step in enhancing Waverley's network of protected natural spaces and ensuring that they can be valued by future generations even post-LGR. Thank you.
I mean, just noting, I think that point that we have to use every avenue we've got to try and protect land assets within Waverley, and obviously this is part of a suite of plans that we have to try in different ways to protect land assets, not least including things like community asset transfers, fields and trust, but also things like this. And very pleased to see the Lammerslands being one of the next up on the list. I've got Kika and then Liz.
Yeah, just to say, I know Bealswood Common very well. It's a beautiful little parcel of land, and I have to say, very naughtily, a couple of summers ago, my horses were just opposite there, and I used to go out and leave them on a long rein and lie down and sunbathe whilst they chewed their way through the wonderful grass. So I apologise for all those people who said, there's a horse loose round there. But it's just the most beautiful, beautiful little pocket of land. So I'm really pleased that we protected it.
It's a sort of strange moment when you're sitting in the chair and you're envious of the life of a horse. But other than that, I think Liz was next.
Thank you, Leader. And I think sometimes, because we live in such a beautiful borough and, we have a lot of protected landscape, our national landscape, covering about 75% of the whole of the borough. I think we do forget that the UK is one of the most nature depleted countries on earth. And I think that is a very sobering statement. And I think if we can just protect areas that on here, reading within the report that have got 840 wildlife species, including 200 species of flowering plant, 50 species of fungi, 28 butterfly species and 17 species of bee. And whilst it may be a small contribution, it's a really valuable contribution towards wildlife in this area and in the country as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? No, I didn't. In which case, then, are the recommendations set out in the report agenda item 12 agreed? Thank you very much indeed. And then the final item of the evening, the procurement pipeline report, which is with Mark to introduce and me to second. Thank you, Mark.
So thank you, Leader. This is another one of our now regular updates on new projects coming into our procurement pipeline. As you all recall, under our new contract procedure rules, this executive needs to give permission before we start any procurement. That could lead to a key decision, and that's anything of significant value or impact across multiple wards. And by significant value, we mean procurements with an estimated value of more than £200,000. This step is an all-important part of our strategic planning, and it's also consistent with generally accepted good practice. The procurements to be approved tonight are for the 3 projects that are listed in Appendix 1. Firstly, for the development of 58 new council-owned homes across the Springfield and Oxford Ridge sites. Secondly, for the appointment of a development partner for the mixed-use development on the Fairground car park site in line with its allocation in both our local plan and the Hazelmere neighbourhood plan. And thirdly, for a new hybrid mail service. The anticipated contract values that are detailed in the appendix are the total anticipated over the contract period. This report does not commit the council to undertake the procurements listed, nor to use the sourcing route stated, nor does it commit it to collaborate with Guildford or any other local authority should there be exceptional circumstances not to do so. So the individual procurement activities may be withdrawn, expedited or deferred. So just to confirm, if this report is approved, the procurement team will work with service areas to take these projects to market, and for the avoidance of any doubt that any actual contract awards that may count as key decisions will still have to come back to the executive or to council for final sign-off. Thank you.
Let's give my thanks to Faye Gould, our new head of procurement, as well, for all the work that she's done on this. I mean, it's very clear her input into some of these revised procurement processes over the last few weeks, and it's been really excellent. Can I take any other speakers? Wonderful. In which case, then, are the recommendations set out in the report agenda item 13 agreed? All those in favour? Thank you very much, everyone. And seeing no further business, I believe I can close the meeting at 7:47.